Hey, good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person, but in any event, this shouldn't be a very long meeting at all. And we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bale,
Here.
Mr. Copeland,
Here.
Mr. Drexel,
Here.
Mr. Showerman, Mr. Scatella,
Here.
Mr. Winarski.
Here.
Chairman Horton.
Here. Hearing of the public. Is there any citizens? I don't see any on the agenda, but is there any citizen present physically there that wishes to be heard? Are any citizens desiring to be heard? Any citizens online desiring to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move right to item 4, the election report. And I'll turn it over to Karen.
We just have a very brief election report. We have Logic and Accuracy coming up on September 23rd. And that will be conducted down at the warehouse. And we'll also be doing the scanning machine starting 30th here in the office.
Yep. So housekeeping. Those of us on council have been around and know that's some housekeeping that has to be done prior to the machines going out. Any questions? Any comments?
Yeah, so we would have to have a finalized and approved ballot before the Logic and Accuracy, right? Do we know when timing wise we'd be doing the ballots?
We'll be receiving the test decks to scan them before then. When is that going to print?
So we were hoping to start the Logic and Accuracy in the office on the 23rd as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the poll pads will be testing the following week. So 9 a.m. the 23rd, and you're asking how long it'll take.
Well, I was thinking with the Logic and Accuracy that we had to have the test ballots, right? So we would have to have had approved the ballots before then, right?
We can create a test deck, and we'll be conducting Logic and Accuracy that full week, and then we're asking the board to approve it after it's been tested.
Afterwards, okay.
Yes.
Understood.
Okay, so just for clarification, we will be doing the Logic and Accuracy both at the office and the warehouse on the 23rd, and then the poll pads on the 30th. Sorry for that, I didn't have that right in front of me.
And do we have a date for mailing out the mailings?
Once the ballot has been tested and then it's certified, we'll send everything over to.
Can we hold them comments to the end and just stick to our agenda, please? There's a place on there for that. I just want to, yes, because and there needs to be some clarity on that. The state sent out stuff saying September 18th, but we know it's early October. But I would ask that unless you have questions on the dates of Logic and accuracy testing, that we move on to the next item.
Understood.
Yeah, yeah. Which would be is there anything else for the good of the order on that topic?
No.
I'd move on to item 5, a new business, possible authorization of county funds to pay for postage on mail-in and absent ballots. Karen or Tanya, you want to speak to that?
There's been a discussion from the public and from some of our Board of Elections members on whether we should be providing a prepaid postage option for the mail-in ballots. And if we do that, it depends on how many mail-in ballots are going to be sent out. Right now, we're at approximately 27,000 applications for mail-in ballots. The last day to apply for a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot is October 29th. So that number we're expecting to go up. We're kind of estimating our numbers around 40,000. We may not get there, but we're just trying to be, make sure that we're within a budget here when we're estimating our costs. So if we were to do about 40,000, we think our cost would be maybe 35,000 in postage. If we get, close to 100% return rate, which we don't generally get. I think during COVID, my understanding is we were at about 89% return. And that we had used this option due to the fact people couldn't get out to vote. And so that was something that was decided at that time. It hasn't continued as a practice, but there's been some discussion about whether we should have drop boxes at locations or how we could make things maybe easier for the public. And this was one of the options that was presented to our office because the cost would be over 25,000. And because there's people with a lot of varying opinions on this, we felt that this is something really the board should be deciding. So that's why we are here today.
And I open it up for discussion amongst my colleagues.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I've been one of the people that has been talking about this, and I feel very strongly about providing the best opportunity for everyone to have their vote counted. This is now a very bipartisan effort to make sure that this is accessible by people. And in my view, it's free to vote on election day. I'm not sure that people should have to incur any costs and give money to the government, in effect, the postal service, in order to have their vote counted. I would also say that people that are experiencing disability and the inability to leave their home request a mail-in ballot because they're not able to get to the polling place. And they're therefore also have a hard time of going to get postage. And I think that this is an opportunity to make sure that everybody's vote gets counted and that they don't have needless restrictions on their right to vote.
And you're saying that roughly if we get 40,000, it costs us about $35,000. That comes out of
That's the
just
county
our
budget.
budget.
That's
Out of
our
the county.
budget. We can't have the election integrity grant cover that cost. Is something the county would incur. And that would be something that we do have money in our own budget for, that we wouldn't have to ask for any supplementals for that.
And just an explanation of drop boxes elsewhere. Where has there been a discussion? Where's elsewhere?
I guess some of the comments have been the magistrate's offices or the library branches. Those are the two really that we've heard floated around.
And has it been discussed how we secure that or protect it that 2 days after the election, this office or somebody's accused of cheating because they weren't watching? What's the protection if we went that route?
It's something I think that would be difficult to implement at this moment, because we're so close to the election. So if in the future, if you wanted to do that, we'd have to establish a method where we know that the box is secure. It could be under camera surveillance, and we would have to have access to the camera and those contents. We would have to have a plan in place of who is going to the boxes to receive the ballots. How often would you want one person from each party, a sheriff's deputy? At some point, would it be, some locations would you go once a week? Other locations, would you have to go 3 times a day? There's a lot of unknowns that we just don't understand at this point, what the resources would be that would be needed to implement that. So for this election, that's not something that we would be prepared to do.
We discussed
Pardon, excuse me for 1 second. I realized that the boxes were part of her answer, but the issue before us is the possible authorization for funds to pay for the mail-in, to pay the postage, that alone at this time. And so I welcome any discussion on that portion of it, as opposed to because right now we're currently in court over the one mail-in box, drop-in box that we have, and the tremendous amount of footage that we're required for. So that's a discussion that's not going to take place that as it pertains to mailboxes on this call. And I would ask that you would restrict your comments to what's on the agenda before us.
All right, let me ask this question about the money and the work involved into paying for the postage. Do you guys have any thoughts?
It's just a matter of printing it, so when the ballot goes to print, we would need to know if we're putting that on there. And we have the money in our budget, we would just move that over into the postage.
Does a ballot do we get charged for a ballot that's not returned? Do we only get billed once it actually ships? How does that work?
So it's the business reply. So it's just when it's sent back to us, then we're getting charged. So that's why it depends on the return rate. We're kind of looking like if it is 100%, or if we're at 90%, how would that hit our budget? And that's very optimistic, because it's not generally that high. Did they say it's generally around 75%, or?
It's right around that, yeah.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to make a motion to accept that?
Yes, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Copeland and Scatella. Are there any questions from my colleagues online?
Nope.
Call for the question.
Mr. Drexel,
Yes.
Mr. Scatella,
Yes,
Mr. Winarski,
Yes.
Mr. Bale,
No.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes.
so that motion carries by a vote of 5-1.
Yeah, and as it pertains to the continuing discussion about the mailbox, the drop boxes, because it's nothing that we could do prior to this election. We should all have that on our peripheral for discussion at a later date. Are there any other questions and comments from members of the board? I'll entertain the motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Connie had some comments here.
I'm sorry, Andre. I just wanted to finish letting Rock know that the ballots will be mailed in early October.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you reaffirmed that, because it's out in the community. People are asking. I guess the DOS put out something saying that it would be by September 18th. And so we've been trying to write that ever since. Any other thing for the good of the order? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
so moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
Thank you. See you.